I just want to ask you one thing. Can't we just stop the hate? Yesterday in Kenya, there were 10 people murdered by an Islamic jihadist who planted a bomb in a crowded marketplace. Can't we just stop that hate?
That's right. Let's stop it.
Stop the hate!
Yesterday in Israel, there were schoolgirls whose bus was firebombed by an Islamic jihadist who was trying to murder them all. Can't we just stop that hate?
Stop the hate!
Yesterday in Pakistan, there was an Ahmadi Muslim who'd been accused of blasphemy, who was murdered by a Muslim teenager who came into the police station and killed him right there before he could be tried. Can't we just stop that hate?
Yeah.
A few months ago in Syria, Islamic jihadis entered a Christian village, one of the oldest Christian villages in the entire world. They went into the church, they desecrated the icons, they broke them in half, they decapitated the statues, they terrorized the Christians, they looted their homes and drove them from the town. Can't we just stop the hate?
Yeah!
Amen.
Stop that hate.
In Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood blames the Christians for the spectacular failure of the Mohammed Morsi Brotherhood regime, and it's being driven from power by the will of 30 million Egyptians who took to the streets last summer, and they have burned numerous churches and murdered numerous Christians as a result, all over Egypt. Can't we just stop the hate?
Amen.
What's really amazing is that people would actually have the nerve, have the audacity to come here when we are standing up for those innocent victims and accuse us of hate.
That's
When
right.
what they are doing by doing that is enabling all that murder, all that blood, all over the world. I just named a few incidents from yesterday, and that's just yesterday. That kind of thing happens all the time in Muslim countries. Non-Muslims are terrorized, are persecuted, are harassed, are victimized, are discriminated against, wantonly murdered all too often, and then the police stand by and do nothing because the police are sympathetic to the persecutors. Can't we just stop the hate?
Amen.
Amen.
What we see in that people would dare to come out and demonstrate and stand for oppression and discrimination and murder. What we see is just one new manifestation of a large-scale effort to silence all of us, to intimidate all of us, to make us all afraid to speak up for the victimized and for the oppressed and for the afflicted, to make us afraid to speak up because we would know that if we do, they will come out and say, oh, you're the forces of hatred, and that we could suffer personally and professionally as a result. And why would they want to do that? The answer to that is very clear. Why they want to do that is because they want to clear away every last obstacle that the oppressors and the persecutors and the murderers face. Every last obstacle that stands between them and their evil, bloody goal, they want to clear away so that they can murder Christians with impunity, so that they can destroy the state of Israel, so that they can conquer and Islamize ultimately the entire world. We are the ones who stand in their way. And so they have to do everything they can to shift the focus and make it seem as if to stand up for victims of violence and hatred are the ones who are actually committing the acts of hatred. Anybody with any sense, anybody with two eyes, anybody who knows what's going on in the news, anybody who keeps up with these things, sees right through that and knows that they are the liars and they are the forces of oppression and hatred themselves.
Yes! Evil!
problem, of course, that we face is that they have very powerful friends and allies. And their narrative is the mainstream media narrative. And their narrative has been, to a tremendous degree, adopted also by Barack Obama and his administration.
That's right. That's right.
And so, ordinary, average, patriotic Americans think there's something wrong with resisting jihad terror. I'll give you an example. There was a young man, 17-year-old boy, who foiled the jihad plot that was at Fort Dix. You may know, or you may not, that at Fort Dix there was a group of Muslims who were going to go into the army base, murder as many American soldiers as possible before they were themselves killed, by which they hoped to claim the Quran's promise of paradise to those who kill and are killed for Allah, which is chapter 9, verse 111. They did not ever get to the base. They did not shoot a single American. Their plot was completely foiled because they loved blood and death. The Quran in chapter 62 verse 6 says, the Jews say, we are the beloved of God. If you are God's beloved, then you should love death. That's what it says. That somebody who loves God should love death. Well, we love life.
Amen.
Yes.
We know
Amen.
that God is the author of life. But they are, by their own words, the lovers of death and hatred and lies. And so, because they loved death, these jihadis who were going to go into Fort Dix, they loved to watch jihad videos of beheadings and shootings and killings. They loved this. They loved death. They loved hatred. Just like these people with their Orwellian signs. And the problem was they had their blood and death videos on VHS tapes. So they took them to a video store and they said to this 17-year-old kid, can you transfer these to DVD for us? And he said, okay. He was just doing his job, and so he's watching as it all goes by, and he sees all the blood and death that they loved going by. And he went to his boss and he said, dude, well, he was 17. There's some weird stuff on these videos. Should I go to the police, or would that be racist? Now I ask you, what race is beheading? What race is a jihad bomb on a bus full of schoolgirls? What race is going into a church and destroying it and terrorizing and killing the people there?
The race of Satan.
And not only that,
That's right.
but the plotters in that case were Albanians. They were white guys from Albania. There was nothing racial about this in the slightest degree. But anyway, he decided he was going to go ahead and be racist. And he reported them to the police, and the plot was foiled. We have to have the same kind of courage to stand up, and whatever they call us out of their factory of lies and hate, we are going to put it right back to them and say, how dare you stand for the forces of violence and oppression and persecution of innocent human beings?
Good point.
Do you
Good
have
point.
no soul? Do you
point.
have no heart? Do you have no eyes? Are these not human beings created by God as much as you? And you stand by and watch them be oppressed and persecuted and murdered, and not only do you stand by, but then you come and try to silence the people who are standing up for them. Shame on you.
Very good. Very good.
Every time, I go around and speak all the time, and every time we're on the defensive and we're saying we're not bigots, we don't hate anybody. I understand that. I understand that because they control all the sources of information and all the corridors of power. But it's time we start giving it back to them and say, why are you standing up for a system, a societal system that officially mandates discrimination against women and non-Muslims and others? Why are you standing up for that injustice? Why are you defending a system that forcibly silences the voices of freedom and equality and peace? Why are you standing up and defending the people who have the blood on their hands? My friends, we come here today to defend basic human rights. The right of every human being to have life and to live a life with basic human dignity. The United States gives billions of dollars in aid to places like Egypt and Pakistan. It should make as a condition of that aid that they abrogate every Sharia provision in their constitutions and allow for full equality of rights for Christians and other religious minorities and full equality of rights for women. Otherwise, what are we standing up for as Americans? The land of the free and the home of the brave. Otherwise, what are we trying to accomplish there anyway? We fought and we poured our blood and treasure into Iraq and Afghanistan to establish constitutions that make Islamic law the highest law of the land and condemn women to second-class status, condemn non-Muslims to persecution, violence, a precarious existence. Make it impossible for somebody who decides in conscience that he believes that Christianity and not Islam is true to live without fear that he will be captured and killed. The United States of America stands for that.
Insanity.
We are better than that. We have to start demanding of our political leaders that they be better than that. And stop aiding and abetting the forces of deception and hatred who are trying to enable the oppression and the persecution of religious minorities in Muslim countries. We were taught, those of you who grew up here and are old enough, we were taught that this land stood for freedom and for human rights. It is now up to us. Our political officials are not going to do it. Our elected officials are completely out to lunch on this. It's up to us to stand up, and to stand up fearlessly and without apology and without hesitation, and to stand up and speak the truth against the entrenched powers of political oppression and hatred, and to call them what they are, and to call out their lies for what they are. It's up to us, and so I thank you for being here. Next year when we do this again, let's have 3 times the people here.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
I agree.
Amen.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spencer. I am reminded